So one of the things I love about DCS is that while I spent most of my career in the back of a Hawkeye as a naval flight officer doing airborne command and control type stuff, um, I also was able to spend my last at sea tour. Had the honor and privilege of serving with the Air Department on USS John C. Stennis, CVN-74 up there in the tower, and had a great time because I finally had a bunch of windows, which I didn't have in a Hawkeye, and I could see what was going on and really enjoy, really being an integral part of naval aviation there, helping control the pattern and watching, endless launches and recoveries, and just the amazing sailors of Air Department working as a team to make all that stuff happen. And it was just outstanding tour. Really loved it. In DCS, it allows us to simulate that kind of stuff, and now I get to pretend to be a Hornet pilot and be part of the action. So it's a really cool thing that gets to be done. And what is fun in virtual CVW-8 is we try to apply the actual procedures from CV NATOPS to what we do. And so currently we're executing TESTA, working cyclic operations. And so on this flight, we had 2 divisions of fighters that went out, did some BVR training, came back for the 1115 Event 1 recovery. We had a section of Pride aircraft from VFA 15 and a section from VFA 87 party aircraft. What this video is going to focus on is the spin. I hear a lot of different things out there about what the spin is, what is the spin pattern, when do you spin, what is spinning. I hear it used in a lot of different ways. We use live paddles, and what I will hear a lot of times is guys who are already in the landing configuration. They've already broken into the pattern, they're at 600 feet, they're coming around. Maybe they turned late, ended up with a really long groove length, something like that. Maybe they turned late and another guy turned at the right time and cut them off. And what I'll hear pilots say is, hey, paddles, 202 spinning, or 202 is going to spin. And what they're saying is they're going to take a spin around the landing pattern. They're going to just stay up at 600 feet. They're not going to come down and try to land on that one. They're just going to spin around and try it again. Word-wise, that makes sense, but in CV NATOPS, spinning actually means something. It is an actual procedure, so we won't use that. If you've got to tell paddles, or more specifically, if paddles is going to tell you to not bother trying to land on this approach because maybe your pattern was AFU or something went wrong, what you should be told is to take it around high. Okay, so you just stay up at 600 feet, stay in the dirty configuration, fly upwind, turn crosswind at your proper interval, and come back around and give it another try. This video is going to look at a really great example that happened on this flight about when we would use the spin pattern and how that plays out. So where this video picks up, Pride has already broken into the pattern with the division, and so we see Dash 1 coming around for the landing, Dash 2 is coming around, and the party flight is still getting rejoined. That's something we'll talk about at some other point, but what we'll end up with is 3 aircraft approaching the initial, with the 4th aircraft still trying to rejoin. We'll worry about that right now. And what you can see here is Dash 1 from Pride. So Pride 1-1 has landed. Pride 1-2 is coming around and in the groove. This is Party 1-4, kind of out, still trying to get rejoined. We have the 3 other party jets here, and so we'll focus on these guys for this example. They're approaching the initial. Remember that initial is 3 miles, 800 feet, wings level, parallel to BRC. They say parallel on the CV NATOPS because you want to be offset to the starboard side so that you can look down at the boat, check the deck, make sure the deck is open if you're breaking the deck, or ensure that your interval did not just bolter, which is a great opportunity in this video to see how that plays out. So we keep going with the tape, and we'll take a look here. I'll slow this down for a minute. So Dash 2, so Pride 1-2 is coming to the deck right now, has called the ball, and ends up not stopping on this pass. So Pride 1-2 is on the bolter. Now this is a great opportunity to see, this is why we offset to the starboard side. The flight lead needs to be able to see what's going on the deck. If he sees that the aircraft crossing the ramp doesn't stop and now has continued and boltered, that means this aircraft right here, in this case Pride 1-2, has the priority for the crosswind turn. Okay, I don't know the side numbers. You would be using side numbers around the boat, obviously, but I'm not sure what the aircraft side numbers are. So that's why I'm saying Pride 1-2. But so Dash 2 of that Pride flight now has crosswind priority. Now, what we'll see in this example of the video is that this aircraft is a little bit low on SA and doesn't quickly grasp the fact that he needs to go ahead and start his crosswind turn, because if he doesn't, if he continues to drill upwind, he's going to drag that pattern out and make it to a point where we can't actually get that other flight in. So keeping in mind that we have 3 party jets here, it's really 4. We shouldn't be trying to do this rejoin business as we're overhead the ship. Obviously, we'll talk about that in some other video, but we're going to count this as a division because it ends up being that many, and the flight lead is treating it as a division, understanding that with an aircraft on the go, knowing that he's going to have to turn in order to bring a division into the break. Lead basically needs to break overhead the ship in order to fit everybody in by 4 nautical miles. CV NATOPS says we should not break further than 4 nautical miles away from the ship. So in order to do that with 15-second break intervals, lead really needs to execute his break overhead the ship. So with an aircraft on the go off a bolter, that's not going to work. So party lead here makes a great decision and says, I'm going to spin myself, because I can spin myself, and then 2, 3, and 4 can still fit in, expecting 2 to break at 2 miles and then 3 and 4 respectively, knowing that this bolter here should begin his crosswind turn very soon. So it's a great decision by party. In this instance, the Pride jet here is a little bit low on SA and doesn't make the turn. What we'll see is he decides when he sees this flight come in, we'll watch this come overhead. So he's on the go, climbing up to 600 feet, getting back on BRC, and starting to decide when he's going to turn to the crosswind. What he should be doing is already in the crosswind. Basically, when he's safe, ready to climb, coming up to 600 feet, he knows that he's the second aircraft in that Pride flight. There's Dash 3s behind him. Dash 4 is already inside the 180, approaching the 135. So Dash 2 should know, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start my crosswind turn. There's nobody else over here, because if there were, they would have broken up here and you'd see them in the downwind. They're not there. And so what we need to do coming off the bolter is know where our interval is and then turn in a timely manner to allow this flight that's coming in overhead to get as many into the pattern as they can. So again, Party 1 sees Pride 1-2 on the go and decides to execute a spin. So what happens here, and part of the confusion, is right here, CV NATOPS says the spin should be normally initiated at the bow or by the bow. What you don't want to end up doing is drilling way up here and then starting a spin. So this is fine. This is a great place to start the spin. But what happens is this Pride aircraft sees these aircraft braking overhead, and to him it looks like a brake, even though it's not. It's a climbing left-hand turn. He can't perceive that from where he's looking at him. So he thinks that this flight is braking in front of him, thinks that he's being cut off, and decides that he's going to depart the pattern. That's a safe decision. No harm, no foul on that. The way it could have been avoided is on the go, right off that bolter. Once you had a good, solid, positive rate of climb, if you knew your interval was over here, go ahead and start your crosswind turn. I think Party still would have spun this, which is a great decision because, again, to fit 3 in, that's no problem. So that's how we could have avoided the part of the Pride flight here. But again, not a big deal. Safe decision. Okay, so we see the Pride Dash 3 trap here. Party begins. Party 1 takes the spin and sends Party 1, 1, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4 on the upwind for the break. So the spin is a 1,200 foot turn at 350 knots inside, basically at 3 nautical miles from the ship. So I've got Party 1-1 tethered here at a mile, 1.3 miles, and Party 1-1 does a great job of staying within 3 nautical miles, bringing it around, and setting himself up. And in fact, he almost stays a little bit too tight. You want to be targeting that 3 nautical mile initial. And so what we'll see here is he's going to go ahead and do his turn, and if we look at the rest of his flight, you can see Party 1-2 starting his break at 2.5 miles. I'd like to see that back at 2 miles, right? Because that's kind of where you want to go. You take your break at 2 miles, expecting that the guy on the bolter would have already turned to the crosswind. So back that up a little bit, and it's going to help everybody stay inside the 4 nautical mile break range. But 2.4 is not terrible. So we go back to Party 1-1, and he is continuing his spin. And again, this is the proper use of a spin. So what the other piece here is, a case 1 pattern is normally zip lip. We get that. But when we're learning these types of things, and executing them for like the first time, it's okay to drop some basically what would be low vis calls out there just to help increase SA. So when Party 1-1 comes in and is going to spin, when he executes that spin, you can come up and say, let's say his side number is 401 spinning. At that point, you just told everybody that you are spinning, nobody else is spinning. That means there's 3 going into the upwind for the break. And that lets everybody know what's going on. If there were any other aircraft coming down from 2000 out of the port holding, heading to the initial, that also tells them that, okay, I've got somebody in the spin pattern now. CV NATOPS tells me that spin pattern traffic has priority for the initial over commencing traffic from 2K. So that helps you understand I got to be looking for that. Maybe I don't want to come out of 2K because I got someone in the spin right now and they have priority, so maybe I'll stay up for one more lap. So we could drop that out there, but you know, technically he's not wrong. It is zip lip. He doesn't have to make that call, but that helps a little bit with SA to build it for the pattern. So Party 1-2 is in the break. Party 1-3 is braking. Party 1-4 will break. What we'll see is Party 1-4 breaks at 5 nautical miles. That's outside CV NATOPS, obviously. If you can't initiate your break by 4 nautical miles, or you know, give or take a half mile or so, right? That happened all the time in the fleet. We had guys who would break a little bit past 4 nautical miles. If you're seeing 5 nautical miles, you're definitely outside NATOPS at that point. Go ahead and just depart and ranner. Take it out to 7. Come back in at 2K. Or if you know nobody else is in the pattern, you can just kind of bring it all the way around back to the initial. But the safe bet is to take it to 7 miles, climb to 2,000 feet, take your port turn at point 3, go ahead and commence and head back down to 800 for the initial. But try to avoid dragging the pattern way out there. Part of the reason for that is, you know, when I'm in the tower and I'm trying to keep the pattern safe up in front, when aircraft get out there breaking at 5 nautical miles, they start beginning to be too far away to see, and from a safety perspective the tower is supposed to be able to see everybody, so outside that 5-6 nautical miles, even with binoculars, it can get pretty tough to see where these gray aircraft are. If you get any kind of haze or dust out there, it gets pretty tricky. So that's why we're keeping that, and because the carrier control zone is 5 nautical miles, so the tower's really only got it out to 5 nautical miles. If you break at 5, you're going to go outside that control area, and we are not able to ensure safety and deconfliction at that position. So that's why we have the 4 nautical mile mark. All right, so Party 1-1 is bringing it back around. It's 2.6 miles. You can go ease that turn a little bit and hit the initial at 3, but no big deal. And what we'll see here, he does a great job getting himself back down to 800. And we've got Party 1-2, Party 1-3, Party 1-4 all into the pattern now. Pride 1-2 is continuing his depart, and he's going to bring it back around for a for another commence with a break. And here we see Party 1-1. He's at 800 feet going down the starboard side of the ship, and he's going to execute his break on time based on Party 1-4 as his interval. So here we go. And he looks over his port wing, sees that he's in front of him now, and he's got interval on him, and go ahead and initiate his break. So that's all we're going to look at in this video. There's some other things in here that we can take a look at, including groove length, trying not to cut each other off when we end up in that sort of situation. But I wanted to put this video together to help bring some clarity to what the spin pattern is, what it means when you say you're spinning, and hopefully this was a good example for everybody and brought some clarity to that. So good stuff, and until next time, I'm out.